Okay, what's up, everybody? We are live. Today's stream is gonna be a fun one because we're gonna be talking about Fight Club, one of my favorite movies, the philosophy behind it, what it's all about, and what it speaks to on a deeper level. Because I mean, Fight Club is one a great movie, and it has some very interesting philosophical questions, philosophical ideas. It deals particularly with meaning, and especially meaning in such a consumerist world, such a fake world. It basically follows the insanity of one man who kind of has a psychotic break, and it's supposed to replicate not just our experience, but the experience of others as well. It's 2 in the morning. I'm sorry. I've been like busy up until now. Actually, I haven't been busy for like a few hours, but I was reading Hamlet and I got too far into it. So yeah, my bad. I'll stream earlier tomorrow. Tomorrow I have like a huge gap during the day where I really just have to do something for like an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So at some point in the morning tomorrow I'll stream. Probably around 12. That's what I'm shooting for. But yeah, it might be it's definitely gonna be earlier, but yeah. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the philosophy of Fight Club. I'm sorry, we're probably gonna spoil it. I don't know what the video is going to say. I blind react to most of these. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should plan stuff. But yeah,
Wasted on fulfilling other people's expectations? This is just one of those questions presented in a novel written by Chuck Palahniuk named Fight Club. The film
I think the novel's better than the book. The novel does a better job at characterizing, obviously the characters, and does a better job at delving into more of the psychology. I think the movie does a really good job of showing a lot with the filmography. What is that called? Cinematography. It does a really good job of like showing some of the things that need to be shown, but I just think the novel is better at that. It's a very short novel as well. If you want to just get the audiobook, it's literally like if you have a 2 hour car ride. Actually, I don't know how long it is. It's probably like 3 or 4 hours. You'll knock it out very quickly.
version of Fight Club, directed by David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena Bonham Carter, could be considered one of the best and most impactful movies ever made when looking at its reception and ongoing popularity. Fight Club isn't shy of over-the-top violence, contains a fair amount
So the reason why it's so popular is because it speaks to the mindless consumerism. Um, what's up, Jaden? How's it going? Basically, the reason why it resonates so much is because it does such a good job of satirizing all of the nonsense that we see in this world, all of the ads, all of the ridiculous, just people trying to find meaning and depth through material things. And there's a line in this movie. It's something along the lines of like, we had no great war, we had no great unifying purpose, and because of that, we're a lost generation. And I think that's probably one of the greatest ideas that I've ever stumbled upon. And it explains so much about today. It explains so much about why people are unhappy because this is something that Viktor Frankl said. Man can basically do anything when he has meaning. Man can basically do anything when he has purpose. But when he has no purpose, then you might as well just give up. It's going to end. You're going to fail. And these are all interesting ideas that are spliced throughout this weird tale and this it's very unique. It's very special.
of explicit language and, of course, the obnoxious behavior of its characters. However, it's definitely more profound than just men coming together to beat each other up. The story is built on several thoughtful concepts that are interesting and possibly applicable to our own lives. It tells a story about a generation of people without a clear purpose, without hope, raised with false expectations.
So this is something that Nietzsche warned about. Nietzsche warned about as people begin to denounce the ideas of God, denounce the ideas of higher creation, and sort of fall victim to these more hedonistic, more consumerist pleasures. people are going to start lacking meaning, and this nihilism is going to be a great destructive force. And I think it's really seen like watch the Super Bowl, watch a UFC fight, watch the ads in between all of these things, and then realize that the advertisements are the real main show. Those are the only reasons that those things are happening. The only reason the Super Bowl is on to sell things, to sell goods. It all comes down to consumerism. It all comes down to these people are going to buy these merchandises because they saw it on TV. And it's like, it's very weird that there's nothing deeper than that. There's nothing below that. Like, think of all the people that got like quote unquote canceled. Like, the reason why is just because it was going to hurt the bottom line of the sponsors. No one would give a fuck if no one was making money off of it. No one would even bat an eye if someone said something horrendous. But because people are making money off of it and it's hurting their bottom line, that's why these things occur. And it's a very weird concept when you think about it, because in a world where we're supposed to pronounce the ideas of freedom of speech, pronounce the ideas of freedom of expression, it's anything but.
Expectations and repressed by ever-tightening social norms. What if our existence is pointless? What if God doesn't like us? What if we're nothing more than a compost heap? How do we find meaning in a meaningless existence? This video explores several philosophical ideas.
So the answer to that is there's no meaning in life, and that's what gives it meaning. Maybe meaning is not the right word because meaning is something that we all derive value from. So, like, I like to think as purpose. I like to think of fulfillment because those words are much less serious. Those words are much more happy. And if you live a life where you're completely fulfilled, where you don't need anything, where you live every day in pure bliss, pure joy, what else could you ask for? That's all the meaning you could want. And that's what's granted to us because we have free will. That's what's granted to us because there's no set meaning. If there was a set meaning, then you would have to grow up and do that job. You would only be destined to do that. But because there's no set goal, because there's no rules, because you can do whatever the fuck you want, that's the meaning right there. That's the purpose right there. It's to find out what you want to do and do it.
That Fight Club presents us. For those who aren't familiar with the story, this analysis
Is a
explains
Satanist a religion? I mean, a religion is whatever you define a religion as. I mean, it could be.
and reveals the plot. The story of Fight Club revolves around three main characters. It's told from a first-person perspective by a nameless character that's commonly called the narrator, who has a dead-end white-collar job at a major car company and has fallen prey to what he calls the
I think he has a name in the book. I don't think he has a name in the movie. I think he has a name in the book. Or maybe I got that flipped. I haven't read the book in a while. I haven't watched it in a few months.
Kia nesting instinct. Dictated by social norms, he walks
Fight
perfectly
Club
in
is like
line.
one of those movies that you can like watch again and you start to notice things that you didn't notice the first time. I really love movies like that where I don't know if you call it Easter eggs or the things that you didn't pick up on, you see more and more and more. That's it's one thing for a movie to captivate your attention for 2 hours, but it's another thing for you to have to think about it, have to watch it, have to notice things again for yourself and speculate on these ideas. That's probably why I like Ulysses so much. This book right here is something that people study their entire lifetimes and they never even grasp the basic meaning of it. And it's something that like is so deep and so complex that like Joyce himself said that he would have English professors debating it for the next few centuries.
Like a docile sheep, which translates into an inauthentic, repetitive, and empty life. He suffers from a bad case of insomnia, which causes him to be neither fully awake nor fully asleep. Sometimes he entertains self-destructive thoughts. As he flies around from state to state for his job, he prays for a crash or mid-air collision every time the plane banks too sharply on
This is like a weird, this is something that like if you could communicate with other animals, they would be so confused by this because no other animal in nature would think of harming themselves. No other animal would think of wishing for things like this, but it's something about the human condition, it's something about the human mind that um wants danger, wants something to happen, even if it's something awful. And like sometimes the monotony of life, like it it makes us wish for evil. It's a very weird psychological phenomenon. I don't think I could explain it properly right now, but
takeoff or landing. During a flight, he meets an eccentric and hyper-masculine character named Tyler Durden. Tyler seems to be the direct opposite of the narrator.
so this is the personification of the Jungian shadow or the anima. So every trait that you don't have is basically mirrored in your unconscious. So this is what the shadow is. It's the parts of yourself that you hide. It's the parts of yourself that you really wish you could be, but because of society, because of the norms, because of the conventions, you haven't allowed yourself to accept. And a very fractured person, a person that has a very large shadow, has a shadow that um is very controlling of them, is someone that is going to eventually snap. What's up, Fluffy Kitty?
He's a wolf rather than a sheep, disentangled from society and impervious to social norms. He takes what he wants without asking and whenever he pleases. He's self-sufficient, has no superiors, and doesn't care about the material.
So think of these traits. This is what most people want. And the reason why Chuck Palahniuk, I think that's how you say it, we'll just call him Chuck from now on, the author. The reason why the author has the narrator such a mild-mannered and average person is it's a personification of the everyday person. And these are the characteristics, the more wild side, the less conforming side is something that we see in all of us and we wish we could let out. And this is why it's such a universal theme. This is why the movie's so popular because this is a very common archetype. This is a very common archetype of the shadow that everyone wants.
Possessions. The movie later reveals that Tyler and the narrator are the same person, as Tyler is a product of the narrator's imagination that's probably induced by severe insomnia.
So this is a literal interpretation of the shadow, where the shadow takes over and acts out, but it's very much a similar philosophy in real life. When you lose control of your emotions, when you lose control of your stability, your shadow will take over. Your shadow will be aggressive. It will be brash. The favorite example that I use is when you're in traffic and someone cuts you off and you're screaming at them, cursing them, flipping them off. When you're doing all these things, it's not that you're mad at them. It's just that the rage that you've built up until now is finally being expressed. And that's what this is a symbolic representation of.
Combined
This is a like a really deep movie when you start to analyze it in this way, and it has a lot of like really interesting themes, and it's very well done because when people try to do something creative like this, most of the time when people try to do something that's like revolutionary like this, you could see through it so much. And I think this was Socrates that said it, or Plato, depending on who you want to credit it to, because Plato is the only representation of Socrates that we really have. But basically, Socrates was going around to great individuals, smart individuals, and trying to disprove that he was the smartest man alive. And he goes to the playwrights, he goes to the people that are writing all of the plays, and he basically finds out like that the artists can hit at something, but they can't explain it, almost as if they're a prophet, almost as if they are speaking something out of themselves that they don't even understand themselves. And I'm guessing this is what this is because this is a very deep psychological truth that's being explained right now.
with dissatisfaction with
The
a
shadow
dull,
exists.
meaningless existence and a
It
lifetime of
always
repressed
exists.
urges. The
That's like if there's so much light that the shadow doesn't exist, that's just not possible. Because for there to be light, there has to be shadow. There has to be contrast to be, you know what I mean? There's no such thing as light without darkness.
The narrator is addicted to going to support groups for specific illnesses because these give him the opportunity to cry, which seems to be a remedy for his insomnia. The downside of his behavior is that he isn't genuine. He has no testicular cancer or blood parasites, yet. acts as if he does, so he can reap the benefits.
This is like think of people that want to have pity parties. Think about people that want to complain about how bad everything is, uh, victimize themselves because it's much easier to complain about your scenario. It's much easier to say woe is me and say all of these bad things are going on than it is to actually address the problems that are going on. Actually address your lack of meaning, your lack of depth, what is actually bothering you. A lot of times it's stuff we don't want to face. So it's much easier to fall for these defense mechanisms. And I don't really fault anyone for doing it, but it's not a healthy path forward. The best path forward is always to face your demons the second they manifest. Face the things that happen to you the second they appear. Because the longer you push off a problem, the worse and worse it becomes. Think about any sort of debt. Think about it like this, like it might start off with just a parking ticket, but you don't pay it for X amount of years. And next thing you know, there's a lien on your home and you're kicked out. Like things can start off very, very small and progress to something that is basically insurmountable. And this is what we do with most of our problems. Like the reason why you are the way you are, the reason why you struggle with certain things, it's usually from your childhood and it's usually something that you can't even explain, but it has such a hold on you that it's basically you now. It's basically a character trait that you've developed from one instance of something. Like, think about it. Most nervous tics are literally from people being in school and the teacher telling them to sit still. It's an outward manifestation of your body wanting freedom, an outward manifestation of your body wanting to move. It's become an unconscious reaction. That's how neurotic you are. It's very weird when you start to look into these things and look into why you are the way you are, but I'm telling you, a lot of it comes from things that we can't even pinpoint, and it's only through deep introspection that we can even begin to understand these limitations.
Of these sessions. But these benefits come to an end when another non-genuine visitor starts to join the sessions as well. This is a woman named Marla Singer, and her motive for joining these sessions is
I wonder if this is I wonder if this is the anima to the narrator. I won't explain it because I don't want to speculate, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I should do more research into the author because maybe these are outward manifestations of Jungian psychology. That's what they're speaking to me right now. That's what they seem. And basically, what the anima is the anima is the embodiment of female characteristics in your psyche. And basically, it's mostly formed by your mother, but it's also formed with all relationships you have with women. And in particular, the types of women that you're going to go after are very much formed by the relationship that you have with your mother. Like if your mother is overbearing, then you're going to try to replace that impulse with someone that is also overbearing. If you have someone that is um, more distant, you're going to want someone that's more distant. And again, these are very, very simplistic examples, but when you begin to analyze these things, you begin to analyze like your relationships, you will really start to notice these patterns. And the truth is, the secret to the anima is to accept the traits in yourself. So, like, for me, my anima is like it wants support, it wants compassion, it wants empathy. And you can go your entire life looking for these traits in other people, but the truth is, it's never going to satisfy this need because the traits that you're looking for are really traits in yourself. So, like, instead of looking for someone else to give me compassion, give me support, allow myself to take a breath, allow myself to take my foot off the gas, I have to do this for myself because no one else can give me exactly what I need except myself. What my girlfriend gives me can be in supplement, but it's not going to be the end all be all. And I think it's a very, very weird concept, but the more you start thinking about it and the more you start integrating yourself, the more whole you are. And it's the same thing, but opposite for females. For females, a lot of the problems with the animus is a lot of women don't want to give up their ambitious side. A lot of women don't want to give up their like work ethic, and they think that if they bring this into a relationship, then the man's going to break apart. And it's like it's almost a fight against this force. But the truth is, like, if you're in a relationship and you're a woman, you just have to give the woman side to the man. You just have to give the femininity to the man. It's not about giving up something that makes you you. It's about giving them something that you already are.
is, and I quote, "It's cheaper than a movie and there's free coffee." Marla is a self-destructive, chain-smoking fatalist who is expecting to
Dog died. Dude, dogs dying is like the saddest thing ever.
die at any moment, but finds it tragic that it never happens. She steals food and clothes for a living and attempts suicide by overdosing Xanax. Even though the narrator, Tyler, and Marla have totally different personalities, they all live their lives, accompanied by a nihilistic undercurrent. Tyler seems to have figured out what
So nihilism is the recognition that nothing has meaning, and it's like a self-destructing loop. Um, Nihilism is one of the negative philosophies, and this is what you see in like think of people that just have no hope. Think of people that like have no outlook and they just don't do anything and kind of just waste away and don't really go outside. Those are nihilistic people. Again, this is not the only archetype that are nihilistic. There's a lot of other people that exemplify at least some of this philosophy, but like just think of people that are constantly negative, that can never say anything good, and they always have to find fault in anything. That's a nihilist. That's a person that's nihilistic. There's a offshoot to nihilism that's pretty inspiring, which is absurdism, but I think it's a very difficult philosophy to comprehend if you haven't studied Eastern philosophy. Eastern philosophy is kind of all nihilistic in a sense, but it's also absurdist as it breaks down society and it breaks down convention to replace it with your purpose, your meaning, your alchemical process of transmutation of the soul.
causes this emptiness. And during the course of the story, his solution unfolds. Unfortunately, his character slides from a sage-like father figure to an anarchist terrorist who is out to destroy modern civilization. Nevertheless, he exposes a series of harsh realities about modern life that are worth contemplating. The anti
So I think this is the strongest message in the movie. Towards the end, it doesn't, the philosophy kind of fades. The thing I don't think is as strong as the world building, and I think this is really the case with a lot of works. I think the ending to 1984 is pretty strong, but most of it isn't really that inspiring. I think the world itself is very apocalyptic and very scary and very accurate. I would say Brave New World is a really good story, but it doesn't really have that strong of a narrative. It kind of um, more so the details about the world are more interesting than the story. It's very hard to make a great philosophical work and a great story at the same time, and especially sticking the landing. But I think the overall themes definitely save the book, and I don't particularly enjoy the ending because I don't think it really gets to a valid conclusion. But again, that's just my.
anti-consumerist stance of Tyler Durden becomes obvious when he verbalizes his concern about a modern way
It's
of
not bad. It
life.
just I don't think it lives
Shortly
up to the
after
rest
the
of it.
narrator meets Tyler, he discovers that his apartment went up in flames. After this unfortunate event, realizing that he has no friends to call, he calls Tyler. The two meet, and a narrator complains
So he doesn't talk about it, but like there's a good part of the movie. Actually, it's like a scene or two, but it's a very important scene. Um, the narrator's hobby is like buying IKEA furniture, buying all of these different sets, and he basically like studies the IKEA what is it called? Like the magazine and starting to like and he just studies it and just buys all of this furniture and like his furniture is like all decked out and he has all of these nice Tupperwares and stuff but like it's like he's buying things and he has no one to enjoy them with. He has no family, he has no kids, he has no friends. And it's like the narrator's trying to find depth and meaning through these materialistic things that make his apartment look nice, make him feel like he's worthy of something, make it feel like he's working his job for a good purpose so that he can buy more things. You're lurking.
about losing his furniture and his respectable and almost complete wardrobe. Tyler responds rather indifferently and slightly sarcastically before he begins to express his views on the matter. I quote, "We're consumers. We are byproducts of a lifestyle obsession. Murder, crime, poverty, these things don't concern me. What concerns me are celebrity magazines, television with 500 channels."
So what is the saying, um, bread and circus? I think that's the perfect way to explain it. It's like people distracting themselves from reality because it's easier to um it's much easier to be a consumer. It's much easier to distract yourself than it is to face the harsh realities of the world and the harsh realities of your life not being exactly what you want it to be. What are the other movies that the Fight Club director directed? I probably have, to be honest. I just don't know which ones. I'm not like so into films that I know directors like that. Maybe a few of them. I know like Sergio Leone films, but that's it. I really don't. I'm weird with the movies I like. They have to be like I can genuinely watch any single Western. I don't know why. Anything with Clint Eastwood or John Wayne in it, I can watch. I can watch, you know, endless gunfights where you know who's gonna win, and there's a sick soundtrack playing in the background. But aside from that, like it's hard to get me involved in a movie.
Some
Jason
guys know
Statham as well too, because you know it's just gonna be cool action. Just stuff's gonna blow up, and for the next 2 hours you're gonna be mildly entertained, and it's like it's not something you really have to pay attention to, but you'll enjoy watching.
name on my underwear. Rogaine, Viagra, Olestra. End quote. It becomes clear that Tyler has quite an unconventional view of what's good and bad. Murder, crime, and poverty are generally considered bad things.
So what he's explaining is an idea from Nietzsche. It's really the central theme of his book, Beyond Good and Evil. It's basically the saying beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So think about it, like objectively, what's good to you might be bad for me. So it's all in whose perspective it is that makes something good or bad. So like for a criminal, for someone that's a sadistic person, like these crimes might be a good thing. Whereas the normal way of spending their time, the normal way of having fun isn't really going to stimulate them. I don't mind your film knowledge. Yeah, I think this is just an easy one to go through. I mean, Fight Club has pretty interesting themes. I mean, we could go over like Taxi Driver and Falling Down as well. I know those are ones that are very easy to do. Like these are just like these are just like an explanation of like what's wrong with the world. It really satirizes a lot of the themes. It really exaggerates a lot of them, but you can see a lot of the meaning and the depth in these things. I think this is the difference between like a modern film. Like most modern films, they would try to tell a story that's like this, but it wouldn't be a good story. It would be just like political pundits preaching to you, telling you exactly what to think. Whereas this is every element of the movie tries to tell you these messages. Every element of this movie tries to get you to evoke a certain emotion. And you can watch the movie and not even notice these themes, or you can look for these themes and appreciate the movie even more. That's what I like about this one. Yeah, Joker. So I watched Joker first, and then I watched Taxi Driver, and like it didn't click until like I remembered that De Niro was in Joker. But now that you say that, like, yeah, it really was a remake of Taxi Driver. Dude, Taxi Driver is such a good movie because I think it has a little bit different of a theme than Joker does because it's really just a guy that's like going off the deep end and then he finds an outlet for his rage and becomes a hero and it kind of gives his life purpose. And he was going down a dark path, but he found a good one. And it really speaks to the nature of veterans coming home and veterans trying to assimilate themselves back into the world, especially like Vietnam, which was one of the most brutal wars and one of the worst wars in history of the world when you look at what was really done to the people. But yeah, it's really, really, really good movie. It's a shame De Niro's kind of like a crazy man. It's sad to me that like your favorite actors like off screen are just like not the person they're on screen. Like it's sad that like most of them are very dumb. They need to be fed their opinions. Like it kind of ruins it, you know what I mean? It's like the same thing as like hearing a singer tell you about their beliefs. You're like, all right, I could have gone my whole life without hearing these things. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to hear politics from someone that like can play the guitar very well. It doesn't really That's not where I go to for my news source. I don't even enjoy politics. Why do I have to hear yours?
While consumer goods like televisions, clothing from a certain brand, products that help to hide aging, enhance bedroom performance, and help us with weight loss are considered preferable. Tyler has a contempt for the artificial, as opposed to elements that have been a natural part of the human condition, probably as long as we exist. This way of thinking touches upon an ancient cynic philosopher named Diogenes of Sinope, who believed that modern civilized life hinders our natural state. At the end of the movie, it appears that the narrator has destroyed his apartment himself when he was taken over by his alter ego, Tyler Durden. This deed was the first step onto the road of detachment from his property.
So I kind of spoiled the movie for you guys. So I'm sorry if you haven't watched it. That really kind of gave it away. But basically, the entire story is this guy destroying his life and trying to find something through this process. Um, it's like the Vegeta archetype, like the world shall know pain. Like I didn't get my way, so I'm gonna burn it all to the ground. It's like the Joker mentality as well.
Into a more authentic way of life, and to, how Tyler puts it, reject the basic assumptions of civilization, especially the importance of material possessions. The narrator moves in with Tyler, who lives in a dilapidated house with ongoing leaks,
Am
power
I still live? I think I might have ended the live by accident. Okay, no, I'm still live. Okay. All right, that scared me for a second. All right.
failures, and no IKEA furniture. Slowly but surely, the narrator indeed detaches from his previously destroyed property. Things you own end up owning you, Tyler tells him.
Things you own end up owning you. Think about how much we bend over backwards just to keep the lights on, how much we bend over backwards just to stay in the house that we want to stay in, just to keep the car, just to keep up appearances. It's this idea. Like people nowadays freely trade their time for material things, and usually it's not worth it. Not saying to go be a monk, but like saying most people take it to the extreme where they're in debt just for the sake of keeping up with the Joneses, just for the sake of being a quote unquote productive member of society, being someone, having some title, having some reputation, being liked by some people. I mean, I really haven't seen the movie, but I know actually I've seen like the first scene. So like there's a scene in American Psycho where all of these people are at a table and like they're all just bragging about their business cards. They're all just saying like, well, mine's better than yours. And meanwhile, they're completely identical. And it's a very weird idea because like so much of these people's self-worth is how good their business cards are, but they're all the same and they all are just like normal business cards. And it's like this is what we're doing with our own lives. Like we're getting some arbitrary title, we're getting some arbitrary role, we're getting some arbitrary salary and thinking that's going to make us happy. That will not make you happy. What will make you happy is doing things that you really love doing. Having a family, like doing something that really can fill up your soul, can really fill up your heart. Like we're not talking about the instant gratification stuff that you can go pay for, the things that you can go buy. Like that will never bring you any modicum of happiness. It's only the happiness that comes from the things that we love doing.
And this simple piece of wisdom probably hits home when the narrator realizes that he doesn't need all these worldly goods and is actually much happier without them. Tyler Durden is a nonconformist and shows, again, similarities with Diogenes, who not only purposefully lived in poverty, but also rejected social norms. For him, social
There's nonconformity and nonconformity for the sake of nonconformity. And I want you to know the distinction because I think the distinction is very important. Like, think of people that like just do things because it's not popular. Think of people that are contrarians for the sake of being contrarians. That's not really what it's about. It's conforming to the things that you actually believe in, being the person that you want to be, not being constrained by any convention, but also not doing things to be disrespectful, not doing things because it's like a it's like a protest to everything that everyone holds in high esteem.
Constructs are nothing more than a superficial layer of culture that represses our true nature. Diogenes lived in a barrel. Tyler lives in an abandoned building. Diogenes urinated in public. Tyler urinates in the soup of a restaurant. Diogenes bit his opponents like a dog. Tyler salivates over them using his own blood. The narrator, on the other hand, seems to be the embodiment of conformity as he adapts his lifestyle completely to societal expectations. The
How can you tell a contrarian when you hear one? It's just um think of the people that are like get behind a social cause because it's popular. You know what I mean? It's like these what is it called? Champagne socialists. Like the people that just try to tear down the system because they wanna they want something different. They wanna be different. They want an identity.
problem with this behavior is that we dedicate our existence walking the paths that people other than ourselves have laid out for us. This need to conform, this fear of falling by the wayside, this sickly preoccupation by what others think of us, this necessity to keep up with the Joneses. What an exhausting way of life, just to feel accepted. So, what if we stop caring? What if we reject the generally
Nothing else matters except how you view yourself. And you can tell how you view yourself based off of the words and you say about yourself. Um, if you're a negative person, if you constantly second guess yourself and constantly question yourself, then maybe you're not doing the right thing. Then maybe you need to try something new. Then maybe you need to align yourself with the values that you really hold in high esteem in your heart. Um, we all have a person that we show to the world. We all have a person that we think we are. And then we have a real person deep inside. We have a side of ourselves that we've never expressed. And until you've expressed this side, you'll never be happy. And the truth is, external validation means nothing because you'll always need more. Think about it, like celebrities, no matter how famous they are, no matter how many movies they're in, they always towards the end get better. Think of a washed up star. Think of somebody who used to be in the spotlight and tries desperately to cling on to it. Like it's almost sad. It's almost sad because these people had the entire world in the palm of their hand and for most of their life and now it's gone and they need it back. It's like I think you had your time in the sun. I think it's time to move on to something new. I think it's time to start finding the happiness in yourself. And that's really the truth of it. Like no amount of money, no amount of fame, no amount of success will ever give you what you really need. What you really need is to know yourself. What you really need to is to know the things that you want to do on a daily basis. What you really need is to spend time with people that you really love and spend time with people that uplift your spirit, uplift your soul.
accepted norms and choose our own values, elect our own leaders, determine our own goals, regardless of the social expectations. This is a fundamental difference between the narrator and Tyler Durden, who puts it like this: I am free in all the ways that you are not. Ironically, later on in the story, Project Mayhem, a terrorist organization led by Tyler that grows out of Fight Club, is a textbook example of conformity, as its members wear the same clothes, are absolutely equal, abolish
So this is the idea that like even the contrarian, even the nonconformists eventually become conformists. Think of every revolution. Every revolution eventually it starts off small. When it becomes successful, then it's the norm. And then there's a new revolution. And this is just the cycle of things. Like there'll be pushback, there'll be movements that form, then they become more rigid, then they become more doctrinal, then they take power, then the next thing starts. And this is just the way of things. It's a very weird idea that like people will wrap up their entire identities, their entire sense of being into movements when it really should be wrapped up in the self and doing what it is that you want to do with your life.
their names and are referred to as space monkeys that sacrifice their lives for a greater cause. We could say that by rejecting one doctrine in order to be nonconformist, we often imprison ourselves in another one. Fighting and the experience of pain play a significant role in Fight Club. At the beginning of the story, Tyler asks the narrator to hit him as hard as he can. He
So
explains
there's like a certain level of violence that will always be in this world, and the more we try to tame it, the more it becomes a destructive force. And I think said this quote earlier, but there's a quote somewhere in the movie where it talks about we are the lost generation. We never had a great war. We never had a great depression. We never had anything to collectively fight. We never had anything that was a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose that gave our lives meaning. And because of this, we're all lost. And I think this is what the physical embodiment of it is. And I mean, you see it today, especially like when you go out to a bar, if someone bumps into you and you don't move, they try to fight you. It's like, all right, man, like it's not that deep. It's not that serious. I don't know why. I don't know why you have to potentially risk going to jail to show me how strong you are to get some physical stimulation, to get some physical altercation for the sake of feeling alive. Like, I think one of the greatest thing you can do if you're a young man is like get some sort of physical challenge, whether it's going to the gym. I think one of the greatest ones is jujitsu because you can get that like primal need for combat out, or maybe it's like karate, boxing, Muay Thai, whatever it is. I think it's just like a good, I don't know if cope is the right word because you're learning a skill, you're getting better at something, and you're actively finding a outlet for your anger. You're finding an outlet for that physical need for combat, for that rite of passage. Like there's a like a weirdness to our society that there's no such thing as a rite of passage anymore. Like there were certain rituals that basically told you when you were a man. But nowadays we don't really have that. Nowadays we don't really have an actual definition of masculinity or actual purpose to these things. And I think it's a good thing in certain ways, but in other ways it kind of throws you to the wolves. It kind of gives you no bearing in this world. And I think it's particularly hard nowadays to be in such a soft world where you're not allowed to be vocal about things, where if you're going to be aggressive, you have to be passive aggressive. And not to say this is a bad thing, because obviously, like, we don't want violence, we don't want anger, we don't want aggression. Like, but like, there's just a aspect of a young man that wants to be angry, that wants to fight, that wants combat. So I think it's the best of both worlds. You get to build a skill, you get to get rid of this desire for some sort of conflict, and you get to test yourself physically against your peers. So to me, that it was one of the greatest things I did for myself.
Explains his strange wish by saying, "How can you know yourself if you've never been in a fight? I don't want to die without any scars." End quote. So the narrator hits him, Tyler hits him back, and the two engage in a fist fight. Both seem to feel surprisingly pleasant.
How can you know yourself without being in a fight? I think I mean, philosophically, that's a pretty deep concept, but don't think of it as just a physical altercation. How do you know how strong you are if you've never faced a challenge that you didn't think you could beat? How do you know how strong you are if you haven't failed, if you haven't had the shit kicked out of you? Like it's that idea. Don't think of it as purely a physical fight. I think that's a very interesting concept to play around with.
Afterward and decide to do it again. Their nightly activities on a parking lot attract the attention of other men that are also interested in joining these non-hostile fistfights, and thus Fight Club is born. It's widely known that voluntary exposure to certain forms of pain make us stronger in the face of adversity, which could be a legit reason to partake in these fights, as
So there was a movement in a lot of religions. It's called asceticism. I think that's how you say it. I hate that like words I just read, so I don't know exactly how to say them. But basically, what it is fasting. It's whipping yourself. It's making yourself feel physical pain for the sake of a religious or a spiritual experience. And this is basically the concept that they're talking about. Like the pain that you have, there's the idea that if you have suffering, you're also going to have some sort of clarity because everything ebbs and flows. So in some way, there's going to be a compensation. In some way, there's going to be a cathartic moment where you realize something, where you take a lesson away, where there's some test that you overcame, where at the very least, you know how strong you are, you know how tough you are at this point.
the narrator states, after fighting, everything else in your life got the volume turned down. However, Fight Club is more than just a metaphor for dealing with hardship through exposure. A physical fight and the violence and aggression that goes with it resonates with the primal part of our being. Not only the men in the story are attracted to the violence of fighting, Fight Club as a movie and novel was so
Think about like the violence that we see in the world today. I'm not just talking about the wars, but I don't know if this is just fear mongering, but it seems to people are becoming more and more aggressive. People are becoming more and more short tempered, and you see more and more fights and more altercations. And it really comes from this lack of meaning. It really comes from this lack of depth or purpose. Like people are going to seek out challenge and some sort of depth in activities. And usually when people don't have a healthy outlet, it becomes something negative. Like I was going to use an example, but I don't think it directly applies.
Impactful on its audience that real-life fight clubs started to emerge. The story shows an experiment in which the members of Fight Club pick fights with random strangers and are supposed to lose, which isn't as easy as it sounds. Most people do everything to avoid physical conflict. Now, this video is in no way intended to endorse violence, but Fight Club makes us wonder if it's a good thing that we've lost touch with these primal tendencies. Should we repress this part of human nature or perhaps integrate it in healthy and constructive ways?
So like I said earlier, like you find a healthy outlet. Like for me, it's jujitsu. For other people, it's the gym. For different people, like I'm sure people go rock climbing. It fills the same need. People go out in nature. People go out and be surrounded by the old way of doing things. I mean, think about it. Like that's why so many people love fishing. It's because it's like a meditative experience. It's because it's getting in touch with the way you were supposed to live. And there's a certain element that can be fulfilled from those activities. But if you don't do things for the sake of uplifting yourself, if you don't do things for the sake of tuning yourself with the way people used to live, then it's going to manifest in probably a more violent way, like they're talking about right now.
When the story progresses, Tyler and the narrator begin to see the world through a different lens. Tyler criticizes the modern self-improvement hype by saying self-improvement is masturbation, now self-destruction.
So this phrase, what I take it to mean is self-improvement doesn't really hit at the real problem. Self-improvement makes you a bigger, stronger loser. And I'm not saying that to discourage people, but I'm saying like if you improve everything about your life situation, you're probably still going to be unhappy because you haven't dealt with the real problem. So that's what this phrase means. Like think about it like this. If you struggle with your life now, how much are you going to struggle with your life when you have more responsibilities? When you make more money, when people answer to you, when you have a business, when you have a bottom line, when you have to make an X amount of dollars or you're in the red? Think about that. Like, are you going to be able to deal with those pressures? And the answer for most people is no, because a lot of self-improvement is just surface level stuff, whether it's your looks, whether it's your ability to communicate, whether it's the businesses you have, the money you make. Most people don't get at the depth of what they really are looking for, and they're looking for their soul. And that's what this idea is talking about.
This statement is slightly confusing, as the increasingly destructive nature of Fight Club, where faces are permanently mutilated and teeth are knocked out of people's heads, doesn't seem to be a sustainable way to live. But Tyler might be onto something when we look at self-destruction as the destruction of a false self. Self-improvement often points to the accumulation of external goods, a better house, a better job, a better body, more money. But
Yeah, it's not talking about the deeper self-improvement, like resolving your childhood issues, resolving the problems that you have, really being introspective, really looking at yourself. Because I don't think that's what is classified as self-improvement. Like the self-improvement space is like the Think and Grow Rich books or the How to Win Friends and Influence People books. And don't get me wrong, those are really good books, but again, if you're still struggling, if you're still unhappy, then it was all for nothing. The only thing that matters in this world is happiness because that's the only thing that you take with you. Wherever your soul goes, that's the only thing that you can die with. That's the only thing that leaves with you. Everything that you materially accumulate means absolutely nothing, and probably your relatives are going to argue over it and fight over it, and there'll probably be some family strife because you die. So like if anything, it makes it worse the more money you have because you're going to actively start feuds and rivalries with your family. Like it's a very weird idea that like we can ever do anything that's permanent, that we can ever do anything that will last longer than our kids' lives. Like think about it. Do you even know your great great grandparents' names? I don't. Maybe you know their names, but do you know anything about them? It's like in a few generations, everything you know, everything that you love will eventually fade. And the only thing that matters is how much time you spend smiling, how much time you spend laughing while you're alive, okay? The world is not as serious as you think it is. Everything that's bothering you, every problem you have, will eventually go away. Everything does not matter. That's why you just have to laugh. That's why you have to just smile. Find all of the depth, find all of the meaning in your day-to-day life. Don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Yesterday doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the here and now. And if you can smile now, then you're doing the right thing. Think about it. If you're in the now right now, where are your problems? I have 1,000 problems. I have a million problems. I can go on for the rest of the night about everything going wrong in my life, but it does not matter because they're not here right now. I don't have to work on them. I don't have to do these things. There's no deadline. There's nothing that I have to do right now. So what am I doing? I'm smiling. I'm happy. And the more you can reframe things in this perspective, the more you can focus on where are your problems right now, the happier you can be. Another quick thing. And then point to everything that you have. Point to every blessing that you've been given. Point to every single circumstance that people would live and die for. Okay? You have something that the richest person in the world doesn't have. You have peace of mind. I bet you Elon Musk gets woken up at all times of the night because the stock price dropped a little bit or this massive problem happened. You know what I mean? It's like you don't get that level of success, that level of wealth, that level of fame without massive drawbacks. Like just understand that like your life is a lot better than you think it is and count your blessings. Think about the things that make you happy. Think about the things that make you smile no matter how bad they are. And if you need to, write them down and focus on these things. Don't focus on everything bad. Everyone in the world can focus on everything bad, but it's only the people that are happy that focus on the good. Okay?
But why should we endlessly want to improve ourselves? Why can't we just be happy with how things are and take life as it comes? Or as Tyler states, I say
Did my
never be
stream go out for
complete.
a
I
second?
say stop being perfect. I say let's evolve. Let the chips fall where they may. End quote. We create an identity through material wealth
I saw my Wi-Fi go off for a second while I was going through a rant. It sucks.
and
But
social status. And as far as Tyler is concerned, this false sense of self must be destroyed before we are free to do anything we want. Therefore,
the false sense of self is the ego. So I like to think of the ego as who the world tells you you are, who you've accepted to be through both your ideas and other people's ideas. And this is the furthest thing from ourselves. And really, to me, all depression is, all anxiety is, all negative feelings is a misalignment with who you really are with the ego. When they become too far apart, you become unhappy. Well, and they're very, I'm not going to do a Freemasonic symbol. When they're close together, then you're happy.
Project Mayhem's Space
You're
Monkeys
gonna get
live by a
like
mantra which
conspiracy
goes like
theories in
this:
like 2 years
you are not your job. You're
about
not
how
how
he
much
sold my
money you
soul.
have in the bank. You are not the car you drive. You're
Those
not
ones
the
really bad.
contents of your wallet. You're not your khakis. You are all singing, all dancing crap of the world. End quote. Tyler makes a so-called human sacrifice, namely a man called Raymond who works a dead-end job in a convenience store. Raymond wanted to be a veterinarian, but didn't make it.
So basically, he threatens this guy's life and makes him rethink everything. Basically, this guy wanted to be a vet, and he threatens his life and says, if you don't do exactly what you're gonna do, then you're gonna get it. Then things are gonna happen. So you better live your life as if it's your only shot because it is. And that's this idea. It's Nietzsche's idea of the eternal recurrence. You're destined to live the same life until the end of time. It's destined to repeat itself time and time and time again. So you better enjoy your life right now.
Because it was quote-unquote too much studying. Tyler threatens Raymond, saying that if he doesn't start studying within 6 weeks, he'll kill him. In this scene, Tyler points to another aspect of self-destruction, the act of letting go of fears, negative self-talk, and all distractions, so we can fully focus on our purpose. It's the destruction of everything within ourselves that holds us back from living life on our own terms.
So a lot of what holds us back is fear. And it's very it's almost ironic because we're afraid of, for the most part, people's opinions that we don't even like, people's opinions that we don't even respect. Because if people really love you, if people really respect you, if people really like you, and they're in your life, they want to see you become all you can be. They're not going to discourage you for chasing your dreams. In fact, they're going to be the first ones cheering you on. Whereas the people that you don't like, those are going to be the first people that hate on you. Those are going to be the first people that tell you you're not good enough or talk behind your back or do something shady in an effort to get under your skin, in an effort to, in some way, hold you back. And it's very weird that we give these people credit because it's people that you don't respect, it's people that you don't like. Why do you allow them to have such control over you?
Many people go great lengths when it comes to pain avoidance. The problem is that running from pain means running from an inevitable part of life. The prospect of incurring pain makes us anxious and often leads to hedonistic decisions, that is, choosing the less painful path, even if a more painful path guarantees more success and pleasure in the future. Tyler Durden deals with this by inflicting a chemical wound on the narrator's hand using a lie. As expected, the narrator does everything to escape the pain. He uses visualization techniques he learned at a seminar and retreating in his cave to find his.
All right, so think about it this way. Why do people go thrill seeking? People go thrill seeking because the fear of death, fear of pain, the fear of grave injury makes them hyper fixate on the moment and it gives them a almost enlightenment like experience. They have extra awareness, they have extra focus, they're very locked in. And that's the joy, that's the elation. Everything else kind of fades to the background, all of their problems, all of their ego, everything leaves because they're in such a precarious situation that they need to focus on the moment. And this is a very inspiring idea, and this is what this is replicating. Great pain, great anguish always gives us the most introspection. Think of any breakup. When you go through a breakup, those are usually the periods of the greatest growth because you're forced to look at yourself in a light that you're not usually willing to look at yourself. You're forced to see yourself and see all of your faults and see everything that led to the breakdown of that relationship.
Quote-unquote power animal. But Tyler slaps him in the face, forcing him to stay with the pain, saying, "This is the greatest moment of your life, man, and you're off somewhere missing it." End quote. For the narrator, Tyler has one central goal. He must reach bottom. After putting him through suffering and destroying his false identity, there's yet another aspect that must be crushed. Hope. Losing all hope is freedom, and therefore he must reject what has rejected him, his father.
So losing, I don't know what he's
And
trying to say here.
God. I
Hold on.
quote, "Consider the possibility that God does not like you. In all probability, he hates you." End quote.
Okay, so this think of detaching yourself from the situation. So if you have hope, then somewhere in your brain things need to get better. The truth is things don't need to get better. You can be happy right now. You can control your thoughts, you can control your mind. You can make it so that you rationalize your world to be a happy one right now. We can all find great things in our lives. We can all find things to appreciate, but we choose to fix it on everything wrong. And this is why we need hope. We need hope because we're unhappy with today. And that's what this idea is talking. I know I'm putting a positive spin on it, but that's just how my head works.
Tyler states that we don't need God, that we shouldn't care about redemption and damnation, and if we're God's unwanted children, so be it. Thereby,
If you describe my philosophy, it's like absurdist. So like that's why I'm thinking these ways.
we lose all hope, but are also liberated from religious doctrine and fatherly authority. Now we're truly free. Now we can create our own meaning and live how we want to live. Tyler emphasizes the importance of knowing what we want in life. To achieve this, we must be willing to get.
So it's like ego death. So once you destroy your sense of self, once you destroy all conventions, then you can finally achieve what you were to achieve. This is Nietzsche's idea of the Ubermensch, the Superman. So that once you stop conforming to everything, then you embody the ideal. Then you can start to become exactly who you want to be. Like think you probably had hobbies as a kid. You probably loved doing certain activities, but people thought it was weird, so you just stopped. Like I used to love singing, and all my friends would make fun of me, so I stopped singing. And it was like it's something I regret doing because it was something that used to make me happy. It was something I used to enjoy doing, and now my voice is too deep, and I never kept singing. So I don't think I'll ever be a good singer because I never worked on the muscle. I never sung while my voice was changing, while my voice was getting deeper. So I pretty much lost out on a part of myself. I mean, again, you can always replace it in different ways. Like I found creativity through writing. I really love writing, but again, it's like we make sacrifices. We make sacrifices to please people who like really have no effect on your life. Like the friends that used to make fun of me, I don't talk to a single one. I if I saw them, I probably wouldn't say hi. I'd probably keep to myself. And it's like, wow, it made my life worse because of someone else. And it's a very weird idea. It's a very weird concept that we sacrifice ourselves for the sake of others. And it's not in a noble way. It's not like you jump in front of a bus and push someone out. Like that's a noble death. That's a good thing to do in my eyes. But it's actively bringing down the world because if you're not all you can be, then you can't inspire others to be all they can be either. Like, however good you are, that's inspiration for me because human progress is once someone does something, then it's only a matter of time before someone does something better. And anything you can do, I can do as well, but I can do better because that's just the way things work. I just have to align myself with the same ideas, the same thoughts, the same patterns, the same things that you did to get where you wanted to go. It's that simple.
Get out of our comfort zone and jump into the unknown without safety brackets. The narrator, however, has difficulties letting go of security. He begs Tyler to not mess around when he lets go of the steering wheel in a driving car while hitting the gas. Tyler calls the narrator pathetic and yells, "Hitting bottom isn't a weekend retreat. It's not a goddamn seminar. Stop trying to control everything and just let go." After an inevitable car crash, Tyler states that they just had a near-life experience. Fight Club is a story about rebellion against the status quo and a plea for the simple life. It criticizes the ways in which we are so hung up on security and material possession.
So, what can we take away from this movie? I think there's a few interesting lessons. I think Fight Club is both a warning and a inspirational message because when you burn everything to the ground, then you can start new, then you can start fresh. Again, don't actually do that. That's not what I'm advocating, but I'm saying whoever you are today doesn't matter if you wake up someone new tomorrow. If you wake up without limitations, if you get over all of your limiting beliefs, if you stop conforming to things that don't benefit you, because that's the greatest sin in the world. This is what Dostoevsky said. You sold yourself for nothing. You didn't even gain anything from not being yourself. I gotta find it. Your worst sin is that you have destroyed and betrayed yourself for nothing. Leave with that idea. But basically what it's saying is like you're living a lesser life because you conform. You're living a lesser life because you are a consumer, because you're not the active driver in your life, because you make decisions based off what you think is good for you because people told you this instead of actually evaluating for yourself what it is you really want out of this world. And it's a great movie. It has some great philosophical themes. I'm really losing my voice right now, so I'm gonna head out. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys. I will see you in the next one.